connection between vaccines and autism? Do you believe there's a link?
Well, I don't look. Right now, you have some very brilliant people looking at it. I had dinner the other night with the head of Pfizer, the head of Eli Lilly, and RFK, as you know, and Oz. And we had, and other people within the administration that are involved in the medical. And we're looking to find out, if you look at autism.
Yeah, I'm going to stop you right there, Donnie. For those of you who may not have researched into this because you, A, don't have autism, or B, don't have a loved one with autism, or C, just have never been interested enough to look into whether or not vaccines actually cause autism. In 1998, a small study was done that linked autism spectrum disorder and vaccines. That quickly was peer reviewed and it was thrown out for being complete bunk. And the person who conducted the study actually lost their license for it. And we have since done multiple studies to see if there is a link between autism spectrum disorder and any vaccines. And they have all been ruled out multiple times. But in an effort to spread misinformation about science and further people's mistrust in science and the scientific process, the right has decided that vaccines equal bad.
So you have gained notoriety for your skepticism about vaccines. And over the summer in an interview, you said, quote, "There's no vaccine that is, safe and effective." Do you still believe that?
I never said that.
So stop me. We have the clip. Please play the clip.
Play the whole clip.
You've talked about that the media slanders you by calling you an anti-vaxxer. And you've said that you're not anti-vaccine, you're pro-safe vaccine. Difficult question. Can you name any vaccines that you think are good?
I think some of the live virus vaccines are probably averting more problems than they're causing. There's no vaccine that is, safe and effective.
So you did say it.
Are there risks associated with taking vaccines? Yes, there are risks associated with anything and everything. But I need you to understand that before we started developing vaccines, over 50% of the population died before the age of 20 because of these diseases that we have developed vaccines for. So you tell me, does polio or the polio vaccine, which one has a higher mortality rate? Because I'm willing to bet it's polio. If you're looking for a perfect vaccine that causes zero complications on any single human being and has a 100% perfect, no mortality, no side effect rate, you're not going to get it. But it is leagues better than where we were before we had any vaccines. Should we focus on always making medicine and vaccines better, safer, less mortality rates, less side effects? Yes, and guess what? That's what we do. When we first developed vaccines versus now, we have far less mortality rates due to vaccines. We're already trying to make them better. We're constantly in the process of making them better. But if you don't want to take a vaccine until it's perfect and there is no risk whatsoever, you know what? Go ahead and contract measles. Go ahead and contract polio. That's your freedom, I guess.
The federal government should never be able to mandate the fact that you have to get a shot and have some sort of man-made bioweapon injected into your body when you would like to trust your own immune system to fight back against it, which is much more powerful.
Are you anti-vax or vaccine hesitant?
Before we had vaccines, people died in droves because of illnesses that we created vaccines for. If Marjorie Taylor Greene went back to the 1800s and told them about modern technology and vaccines, and then proceeded to tell some pioneer woman that she didn't take the vaccine because her own immune system was stronger than that, that pioneer woman would strangle her to death with her bare hands. You have the ability to prevent yourself, the people you love, and strangers, which I don't know how to explain this to you, but you should care about other people, from getting these fatal illnesses. And you just don't do it? And you also can't tell me that Marjorie Taylor Greene isn't vaccinated. She grew up in the 70s, the 80s? It was mandated for her to go to school to have vaccines. That woman is preaching that other people should not get vaccinated while she herself is safe because she is vaccinated.
I'm not vaccinated. I'm not vaccinated and I'm not getting the vaccine because I'm an American. I can choose what I want to do with my body. I have the freedom to decide if I want to get a vaccine or not get a vaccine. And I don't care who tells me to get one. I will not get one unless I choose that I want to.
What it means to be an American is that if I choose, I can get myself and others sick with a deadly virus. But you as a woman cannot choose what you do with your own body. When it comes to abortion, I'm pro-life. That's not covered in the American freedoms. Only getting people sick, that's the freedom that we have. Girl, the hypocrisy could not be louder. You have the same people claiming freedom, and that's why they won't wear a mask in public. But the same freedom people don't believe in freedom when it comes to literally whether or not you get access to reproductive health care.
Thanks, President Trump. What about the polio vaccine?
Well, I'm a big believer in it, and I think everything should be looked at, but I'm a big believer in the polio vaccine, the Salk vaccine.
Do you think schools should mandate vaccines? Do you think schools should mandate vaccines?
I don't like mandates. I'm not a big mandate person. So, I was against mandates. Mostly Democrat governors did the mandates, and they did a very poor thing. It was, in retrospect, they made a big mistake having to do with the education of children. They lost like a year, 2 years of their lives. The mandate was a bad thing. I was against the mandate.
So is that something you'd want to?
The less children in schools that are vaccinated, the less effective the vaccine is. That's how herd immunity works. But we're so busy trying to fearmonger about problems that aren't real to distract you from the problems that are real, that it is causing major issues for people who are immunocompromised, people who are elderly. Children are more susceptible to getting these illnesses and having worse effects from them. People who are autistic, so you're being blamed for getting a vaccine when vaccines do not cause autism. I mean, we have Marjorie Taylor Greene comparing letting people know if you're vaccinated or not, because that affects their own personal well-being, to having to wear a star in Nazi Germany. Vaccines, like any other medication, have risk factors, but it is a lot riskier to contract the disease than it is to get the vaccine. I promise you that. Don't let them distract you from the culture war with this bullcrap. Don't fall for it. They are still the elite. They are still the reason you can't afford groceries. That is what you need to focus on, not vaccines causing autism. There are plenty of studies debunking that. Focus on the culture war, because that's what's real.
Is there still a chance to block Donald Trump from taking office? Hello, everybody. David Schuster reporting. One of the most searched and read news items now is a piece published in the Hill newspaper. The column in the D.C. publication cites the Constitution, says Congress has the power to stop Donald Trump from taking office, and urges lawmakers to act. Even Fox News has taken notice.
So there was a piece in the Hill as you get ready to come back here, swearing in the new Congress, got to elect a speaker, do all of these things. This piece in the Hill by two attorneys said that Congress needs to block President Trump from being certified as the winner. They said Democrats need to take a stand against electoral college votes for a person disqualified by the Constitution from holding office. And they have arguments about that. No less is required by their oath to support and defend the Constitution. Now, in 2016, a number of Democrats did push back against certifying the first win by President Trump. What do you expect this time around?
We're going to certify the election. I plan to show up to the inauguration. It's not about President Trump. It's about honoring the American people. And we've got to get past this thing that everything has to be partisan. When I put forward a proposal of common sense on H-1B reform, I had people on my side saying, why are you doing that, Ro? Let the Republicans fight. Let them destroy each other fighting. That's the wrong approach. We're Americans first. We've got to be solution-oriented. The American people just elected Donald Trump. I worked my heart out to oppose him. I went to every state, but we lost the election. We respect the American people, and now let's think about how we have a better message going forward.
So as you heard from Democrat Ro Khanna, there is zero chance, no chance that Democrats are going to try and block Donald Trump's certification. However, the language in the Constitution is clear, and there is a compelling argument that Democratic lawmakers should show respect to that language through a symbolic vote before the certification of the Electoral College. The Constitution's 14th Amendment, Section 3, passed in the aftermath of the Civil War and was designed to prevent former Confederate officials from holding federal office. The language states, quote, "No person shall be a senator or representative in Congress or elector of president and vice president or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or under any state who, having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress or as an officer of the United States or as a member of any state legislature or as an executive or judicial officer of any state, to support the Constitution of the United States, shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same, or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. But Congress may, by a vote of 2/3 of each house, remove such disability." Congress invoked this amendment and this language for several would-be office holders following the Civil War. And Congress passed the 1870 Enforcement Act to enforce the provision. Disqualification is based on insurrection against the Constitution, not the government. And the evidence that Donald Trump engaged in insurrection against the Constitution is overwhelming. In his second impeachment trial, a majority of the House voted to impeach him for incitement of the January 6th insurrection. In Colorado, a judicial process trial found that by clear and convincing evidence, quote, that President Trump engaged in insurrection as those terms are used in Section 3. The Colorado Supreme Court affirmed the ruling, and while the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that Donald Trump could not be kept off the ballot, the Supreme Court did not address the finding that Trump engaged in an insurrection. Finally, there were dozens of witnesses, all Republicans, who worked for Donald Trump, who testified in the congressional hearings investigating January the 6th. Their testimony was overwhelming that Trump violated his oath to the Constitution. Trump's disqualification under the 14th Amendment, Section 3, is no different from disqualification based on other constitutional requirements, such as age, citizenship from birth, and 14 years residency in the United States. And again, if the Congress wants to get around the Constitution, there needs to be a vote in the House and in the Senate. I have no doubt that Donald Trump would get the 2/3 support in both chambers. It would arguably be political suicide for Democrats to try and stop Donald Trump now, given the American people have spoken and the election outcome was clear. But having a vote in Congress to get around the 14th Amendment would be important both historically and symbolically. It would signal to all future would-be office holders that we still expect adherence to the U.S. Constitution and that nobody gets a freebie or will have their insurrection efforts ignored. The vote in Congress might only be a footnote in history, but it's an important footnote to have in the record. It would be a middle ground approach. Donald Trump wouldn't be denied the presidency, but Donald Trump would not get away unblemished, at least in the congressional record. This issue also sets up another question facing Democrats, and that is how to handle Donald Trump in the years ahead.
All right, so let me get you to respond then to Jen Rubin, who writes an opinion column over at the Washington Post. She says Democrats should not try to find common ground with Trump. She says a depressingly high number of elected Democrats are declaring their intent to find, quote, common ground with President-elect Donald Trump and his, as she calls it, crackpot cabinet picks. Their naive, tone-deaf declarations epitomize an infatuation with bipartisanship for bipartisanship's sake. She says you shouldn't be doing it. Your response?
We need to look at it issue by issue. No one is saying that we should work with Republicans or Donald Trump if there's any proposal to cut Social Security, or if there is a proposal to politicize the Justice Department, or if there is a proposal to abolish the Department of Education. Of course, Democrats will oppose that with our values. But if the president has actually a good idea to bring manufacturing back, or to cut wasteful defense spending, or to make our food system safer and get the additives out of our food, why wouldn't we want to work on things that are good for the American people? This is the part of politics that folks are sick about, that we're always looking at things from a partisan lens as opposed to what's good for America. And what they want actually is change agents on the Republican side and the Democratic side.
On all of that, Ro Khanna is correct. Democrats should take everything issue by issue. Support Donald Trump on the occasions when he does boost progressive priorities. Fight Donald Trump on his conservative agenda, including giving tax breaks to the wealthy and in things that will only hurt workers. There's nothing wrong with disagreements and vigorous debate, but do it on the merits of the issue, not because of the partisan politics. If Donald Trump is forced to maintain the status quo of governance because he cannot get congressional votes through Congress, that's fine. In my view, Trump will do less harm to America if he has to spend more time on his golf courses. Just make him a president that cannot get his conservative legislative agenda through Congress. And again, if Democrats still value the Constitution, they should put an asterisk at the start of the congressional record in 2025. Have that extra vote to address the 14th Amendment, Section 3. The outcome will not block Trump from taking office or alter the results of the election, but it will be part of the congressional record for all eternity and underscore that insurrectionists, even in the age of Donald Trump, will not get a free pass. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. I'm David Schuster. Thanks for joining us.